Use your Raspberry Pi tonight. We are not continuing with Minecraft Pi tonight. For those of you that are having trouble with Minecraft, the webinar from Monday, I ended up, instead of posting the actual webinars, I made two separate additional webinars. One for people that had downloaded Minecraft from the website, kind of the traditional way. The old way, I shouldn't say traditional, the older version. And then one for people that downloaded using the 2 lines in terminal. At the time when we were downloading, I did not know, or else would not have had people downloaded in 2 separate ways, that it would create so many issues this later on. So I decided that these 2 camps, people that have the MC Pi folder and people that don't have the MC Pi folder, I would make 2 separate webinars, one for each group. Of course, this plan was slightly foiled when I learned that my audio did not work for the videos. So as of now, the MC Pi folder video is corrected and the audio is working. And by tonight, the other one will be posted and working as well. So I apologize about that, and I appreciate your all's patience with that. Now, because of, one, the kind of difficulty of the task itself of Minecraft Pi, I mean, it's not easy. It is challenging in a good way. 2, the issues that have been created with the 2 different versions and trying to help people with the 2 different versions. And 3, the third reason I will just take I will own that I am sure some of the way that the material has been presented has been confusing or challenging for some of the students. Because of this, I want to offer an optional webinar this Sunday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you have questions on Minecraft Pi, or if you're enjoying Minecraft Pi and you would like more challenges or more additional code to do, if you can't get it working, if you can't get it downloaded, if you can't get your stuff saved correctly, if you can't get it launched correctly, etc., 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 come this Sunday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and I will be answering questions on a case-by-case basis. So I will individually work with you and answer your question, and, very well, while you're sitting there waiting, your question might get answered. So you can either come just hang out, or more specifically, if you have a question, please come. And that will be this Sunday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Yes, the no MC Pi webinar audio will be fixed tonight. And I am so sorry, I did not see until very late last night that the audio was not working, or else they would both be fixed at this point. That is not normal that you wouldn't have the webinar, and I apologize for that. But that will be remedied, and then you'll have the opportunity to watch the webinar and see, hey, do I need to come on Sunday or what have you. So that will be posted tonight. Kendall, I'm going to text Mr. Dubik and ask him if there's a webinar. I mean, if there's a lab. It is Eastern time. Great question, Brianna. You know me too well. I do slip up sometimes. It is Eastern time, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And you know what? I am flexible. If you email me and you say, I just cannot make it then, but I really want to get this to work, I'll work with you. I'll try to find a time where we can either meet and talk, or, not physically meet, but that I can set up a webinar, or I can call you, or your parents, or I can try to do a separate recording that just answers your question and post that. Okay. So, 3D printing. Lots of excitement for this unit. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be learning about 3D printing, learning about what it is, how you do it, what the future of 3D printing is, what the history of 3D printing is. And then on Monday, we'll start with you guys actually 3D modeling your own models that will be 3D printed. So we're going to get started on this presentation, and then every once in a while, I'll exit out of the presentation to ask a question or see if you guys have any questions. But I hope you enjoy this. I think 3D printing is a very interesting topic. There's so many cool things going on in this field. And I think by starting, at your guys' age, already starting to model in 3D, it's going to be a great skill that can be used in so many fields, from jewelry to medicine to really anything. It's wide open. Culinary, regular manufacturing, architecture. Duck wrangling. This is going to be the first example that we talk about until we really get into the nuts and bolts of 3D printing. I wanted to show you some cool things that people are doing with 3D printers, before we really get into kind of the science behind it. So this is Buttercup the duck, and you can see Buttercup's bear. We will meet Buttercup and her bear later on in this lesson. And Buttercup only has one leg. And they actually scanned the leg that she does have, and they inversed it. So she has a right leg, and they inversed it so that they made her a left leg. And they made a prosthetic based off of this 3D printed foot. And so now Buttercup can walk. And so we're going to see Buttercup kind of waddle away. It's funny. I mean, if Buttercup had not been able to walk or swim for a long time, and as soon as they give Buttercup her leg, she is just no hesitation. Like she never lost the ability to walk. She is just whoop, ready to go. All right, so this is an example that maybe affects more people, but this is a 3D printed jaw that would be used as a replacement if someone's jaw was damaged. For example, if someone had a bone cancer and a part of their jaw had to be removed. So what's neat about any sort of 3D prosthetic, especially something like a jaw that would need to fit in your face, is that you are able to take a scan of the person that will be receiving the jaw of their skull, and make it so that the jaw will fit perfectly. If you've had braces, if you've had, braces is a good example. If you've broken your leg and had to get one of those big foot casts, you'll know that most things are only come in a certain number of sizes. Recently, my grandfather fell and broke his hip, and there were only a few sizes of replacements and it worked for him, so it all worked out okay. But there are only a few sizes that they have to replace that. What's neat about the idea of being able to 3D print a prosthetic, or this jaw, for example, something to replace a body part, is that you're able to individually make it for the person receiving it, and it's actually much cheaper because of the way that additive manufacturing works. It's much cheaper than trying to design someone an individual prosthetic not using 3D printing, using molding and casting. That's very expensive. So doing it this way, you're able to individualize a general 3D design, and it's much cheaper. It's much better. It's gonna work better if it's made for your jaw. It's gonna look better, etc., etc. And here you'll see another example of a prosthetic, and this is happening. This is being used and embraced a lot by people that use prosthetics. Not only this prosthetic was made to resemble the shape of the leg that was lost, but in addition, it was 3D printed in a design that this person chose, so that it was something that he was proud of and that demonstrated part of his personality. I think it actually was supposed to go along with this tattoo that you see on his arm. So and you'll hear a lot of people that get 3D printed prosthetics that are fit for their body and that were designed from their body, that there's just something to looking down and seeing the shape of your leg being there that just feels so different from a generic prosthetic leg. In a completely different field, 3D printing is being used today. You can go on Etsy, where people make jewelry, make a lot of homemade things that they sell, and there are currently many different examples of 3D printed objects being sold on Etsy. What's cool about jewelry is that people are able to construct jewelry with these really intricate designs that they 3D model and then print for much cheaper than it would be to cast this bracelet. And by that I mean make a mold pretty much and then fill it with metal. You'll have to forgive me, I don't know too much about casting jewelry, but it would be very challenging to do that. Whereas it's much easier to individualize this bracelet and then print it and then make small changes, print another one. There's much less work, much less work in that process than trying the other way. And you're going to see that with 3D modeling itself. It's very easy to make these, well, it's much easier than trying to physically make them, to make these intricate designs that then you're able to just print. And these shoes, what's neat, you can see the bottom of these shoes. These are actual Nike shoes, and these soles are 3D printed, and the user is actually the person that buys them. I think you have to buy them online, is able to customize the bottom of their shoes. It's pretty neat. Okay, so what is 3D printing? First of all, let me jump off, see if we have any questions. Wow, no questions. All right, let me know if you have any questions. "3D printing is the process of making a 3D solid object of almost any shape from a digital model, and this is known as additive manufacturing. And the basic process is that you use 3D modeling software to create a 3D drawing, and then you send that file to a printer, and the printer then prints it out layer by layer, starting from the bottom and working to the top. So here is an example of how you would 3D print a mug. You start with the 3D object that they made, they designed using CAD software. We're going to do that in this class. CAD stands for Computer Aided Design. And you make this 3D cup, a mug, and then you export the exported file. So once you design it, you export it. And imagine taking a physical mug and wrapping it in cellophane. That's kind of like what happens here. The exported file is like a 3D mesh that encloses everything that you constructed. It's almost like shrink wrapping your design, and then just this file is just the shrink wrap. That is sent to the printer that the software is going to use, and it slices it into hundreds of cross-section, and in each of these cross-sections is like a different instruction for a layer that's going to be printed by the print head. And then the printer prints it out. And they start from the bottom, they draw, use the print head, kind of excretes this plastic material, and then when it finishes one layer, the print head actually stays on one level and the floor of the machine drops down. And then the print head prints another layer and then the floor of the machine drops down. It's dropping down very, very little amount each time. I wanted to show this as well because for a lot of 3D printing, this first step is missed here. You would actually take an original object and you can make a scan of that object, like they did for this foot. He didn't just model this using 3D printing or CAD software. He took a picture or a 3D scan of the duck's other foot, brought it into CAD software, and altered it a little bit. There we go. Wait. There we go. And then he altered it a little bit, then sent off the mesh to be sliced into layers. And this is actually, this is 3D printing with plastic. When you 3D print with metal, it's still, the print head is still going to excrete layer by layer, but it's not excreting like a melted plastic, it's excreting powder, and then a laser melts the powder together. So it's actually, that's how you 3D printers print in metal. So 3D printing is distinct from other kinds of manufacturing because it's an additive process to create items as opposed to a subtractive process, which is traditionally how items have been manufactured. So this means someone started with like a big hunk of something, be it marble and they were making a statue, or be it wood and they were whittling it into a tool. And then they chip away or they whittle away until they get the desired part. And they're left with this giant pile of scraps of the material that they kind of chipped off. With 3D printing, you don't end up with any scraps. You have this exactly what you want made. This file, you get these different layers, and then your 3D printer prints exactly the shape. There's no extra material used. Here you say end part is finishing and the person's kind of sanding the shape. So minuscule amounts of scrap just from the sanding. Any questions here so far? No questions? All right. So traditional manufacturing it's much more difficult at the start end. If you the approach is twofold. Either you make a mold, or you forge, or you cast, so using some sort of form, or you're subtracting. You're starting with a giant block and you're grinding or cutting it down into shape. So the issues with traditional manufacturing is that the startup costs are very expensive, and you're limited to the complexity of the object. So if you wanted to make and sell shower rings, you would be able to make them in a diverse, you would be able to make them in pretty much any material. You could make them in bamboo, you could make them in plastic, you could make them in metal. You could make it however big you wanted. That's a big thing with 3D printers. There's a limit to the size, but we're talking shower, a shower curtain shower rings here, so you don't need to make it very big. But once you have your factory set up to make these shower rings, you can make many, many, many thousands, tens of thousands of shower rings every day. It's just expensive to get the factory set up. let's take a look at making shower rings with additive manufacturing with 3D printing. You could make these shower rings as personalized as you want. You could make them as complex as you want. You're limited to the materials you can make them from, especially if you're just at home making them. But you could get them out right away. The big thing here, though, is that once you have your 3D design for a shower ring, which is really simple, by the end of this unit, you all should be able to print your own shower rings. But even at your printer going full speed, you'd only be able to print tens of shower rings a day. So 3D printing still has a long way to go to catch up to traditional manufacturing. But for things like personalized objects, 3D printing is really popular. So actually not for things like shower rings, but for things like personalized jewelry, personalized instruments, and such. Taking a traditional shape and letting individual people modify it to their liking. 3D printing is really, really popular for that right now. And who knows, in the future, you really could see much faster printing, much easier mass production with 3D printing. What's really great about 3D printing is that you can reduce energy use by up to 50%, and reduce material costs by up to 90%, because there's almost no waste. It's super efficient. You are just printing each individual object. So how does 3D printing work? There are different types of 3D printing, and mostly the differences come into how these layers are assembled together. So we're not going to go into detail really on the differences in the kinds of 3D printing, but stereolithography was first. It's called SLA, and it dates back to the 80s. It was followed not too long after by fused deposition modeling, which is more durable and functional. And this was the first commercialized 3D printing. And then there's the more, this is actually the name of the printer, but there's the more prototyping type 3D printing that we'll be doing in this class, where it's more plastic-based, not quite for functional tool grade use. Okay. No questions? All right. Let's talk a little bit about the history of 3D printing, and we'll get back to this picture in just a moment of what this is showing. This is someone that was missing a large part of their skull, and they were able to 3D print a replacement for that. So 3D printing, by name, dates back to 1984, when Chuck Hull invents stereolithography, which we just learned is the earliest kind. And remember, the differences in this kind are how those layers are used to build the object. So the difference really is in software, not hardware. There are lots of different hardware you can use for a 3D printer, but the fundamental difference comes into making these layers. And software is super important for this. 3D printing actually dates further back from the 80s, which might seem really surprising, since 3D printing keeps being talked about as this recent thing. Well, the personal computer, or a computer that even a smaller business, small to middle business would own, would not be nearly powerful enough to make personalized 3D models at this time. So 3D printing is invented, but it actually takes many years in order for computer power to grow enough that companies and then individuals have access to computers that are powerful enough to do the 3D modeling. So that's what really held 3D printing back, was the software aspect. And you all on your computers are going to be doing lots of 3D modeling. Now personal computers can absolutely do 3D modeling. No issue. So in 1990, that's the fused deposition modeling, and that's the start of commercialized 3D printing. Then we get into some medical developments. In 1999, scaffolding was 3D printed for new bladder cells to grow on that scaffolding. In 2002, the first functional animal kidney is printed. In 2005, RepRap which was founded with the goal of creating a free open source printer. In 2005, RepRap was founded, and RepRap created a 3D printer that can actually replicate itself. And we'll talk about why this is cool in just a moment. Maybe it's automatically cool to you, but we'll talk about why it's super cool in just a moment. In 2010, another medical development, the first human blood vessel is printed. In 2014, a woman in Norway becomes the world's first recipient of a 3D printed skull transplant. Very cool. And in April 2014, a Chinese company figures out how to 3D print 2,000 square foot houses. And we're going to watch a video on how this works in just a moment. So this is Chuck Hull. He's known as the father of 3D printing. And here he is kind of painting or polishing off that little figure of himself. He was the one that created stereolithography, the first kind of 3D printing. And he's also responsible for the, let me make sure I'm getting this right, STL file format, which we're still using today, which that will be the file format that you all use to print. So RepRap was the company that I talked about that made a 3D printer that could actually print a copy of itself. It can print another fully working version of itself. What's really cool about RepRap is that they made their designs free to share and use, including the design of the machine itself. So they are definitely a part of this open source movement, where they give all of their materials out for free. And they're still able to be a viable business because they do what they do really well, and they still let their knowledge out into the world so that people can share knowledge and our world can get better. And this community, this open source community, is founded on that. If everyone releases their information on and everyone helps each other, we can advance faster and further. And another example of this is Lego. Lego actually, when 3D printing started to take off and become more popular, Lego put all of the files for how to 3D print their Lego blocks online for free, so that people could actually print their own Lego blocks out of a material that is very similar to Lego plastic. And, you know, Lego is still doing great. It definitely did not put them out of business. It was a risky move, but it turned out to be a really great and a really positive move, and they're definitely embraced by the open source community. And that's a picture of the 3D printer, the RepRap. And this gear is 3D printed. This machine head is 3D printed. Not every part of the machine is 3D printed. This rail is not, and the screws are not. But a good majority of the machine is 3D printed. And so looking forward in 3D printing history, devices are continuing to get smaller faster, and cheaper. And in addition, I also want to point out that they're getting more powerful and that there are more diverse materials that can be used to 3D print with. And here are some examples, and we're going to go through different fields that are using 3D printing in different ways, in cool ways. Some of the examples I'm showing here, you see that jaw again. You see someone that printed their portrait based on a scan of their face. Up here to the right is something neat. This is shows a mathematical geometric figure, and that's been really neat for those of you who enjoy math. My math nerds out there. I'm a big math fan myself. 3D modeling is a cool way to experience the physicality of math, to look at some of these geometric shapes that can be described by mathematical language and that you find in nature, these really intricate shapes, and you're able to model those using actually math terms, and then you're able to print them as well. So not necessarily by drawing, but to make it so intricate that you're actually modeling just by using, like, you can think about like math equations to create that model. And then up here on the left, I think this is neat. So it would have been really, really difficult for someone to make this guitar, especially in a way that is, financially viable, before 3D printing. They would have had to make a mold. And you can see here even the details, there are little spiders inside of the case. And there wouldn't be a huge demand for this guitar, right? It seems very personal. And that's what's neat about 3D printing. You're able to make things that you don't need to sell it to Target, that you're going to sell 30,000 of these guitars nationwide. You can take someone else's model of a guitar and you could alter it to make something that you really enjoy. No one has asked this question yet, which has surprised me, but you all will be 3D printing in this class. You'll be 3D printing at lab, and you'll also be able to watch some of your 3D prints print during class, and we'll be making models that you will print. All right, so one of my longer examples, this man is proudly sitting holding a model of his 3D printed car. This car was printed in 44 hours, and you can see the full version of the car here. The seats, the engine, the tires, those weren't 3D printed, but the whole outer casing was 3D printed. And you can see it working here. And they polished it and painted it, make it look nice on the outside. But this is a fully working 3D printed car that printed in 44 hours, and that's the print head working. I had a video of this car being printed and then someone driving it, but the video is no longer working as of this evening. Was working this morning, so I'll try to see if I can find another copy of it and post it on Edmodo. It's very neat. All right, some medical repercussions of 3D printing. This woman is holding a 3D printed heart. So that heart is not a functioning 3D printed heart. It is a replica of a baby's heart that they 3D printed. And it's made out of a kind of a plasticky, spongy material similar to what heart tissue is like. So this is one big area in which 3D printing is being currently today used in the medical field. There are lots of really cool potentials in the medical field, personalizing medicine based on your cells and the shape of your cells, using a 3D printer to print really, really, really small things. Being able to 3D print organs and 3D graft skin. Lots of different things that scientists are looking into. But this is currently being used. So again, this is not a functioning heart. What they did here is they're able to get a 3D model of organs now through special imaging tests, like an ultrasound. That's why sometimes you see people, if they put up an ultrasound of their pregnancy or their fetus, you can see it's in 3D. Well, they can do that for your organs as well, any of your organs. And so what they did here is they took a 3D image of a baby's heart, most likely using an ultrasound, and they took that file and they printed it. And what they were able to do is they were able to print a bigger version than the baby's heart, because babies' hearts are very, very small. And they knew something was wrong with this baby's heart, but they were having a hard time figuring it out. So they were able to get the 3D model, and they were able to look at the 3D model and see what was wrong. And they've been able to do that for a while. But what was neat about 3D printing is they were able to print out a larger version and hold it in their hands and actually physically see what was wrong with the baby's heart. So that way when they opened that little baby up, they know exactly what they're going to find. They were also able to print out actual size versions and practice, since the material is similar to the material that they were going to be facing inside the baby. So this is actually used, doctors will use this to do things like look at people's brains, look at people if maybe they have a tumor, or if something is wrong with them. They're able to get a 3D image and have a better understanding of what's going on under the skin. This is a prosthetic hand, and what's neat about this and the future of prosthetics, this hand is able, by connecting and kind of quote-unquote speaking to muscles higher up on the arm using wires, it's able to contract when other muscles in your arm contract. So imagine not having a hand, but telling your hand to squeeze, because you can still do that. You can still tell your brain to squeeze your hand, even if your hand isn't there. Well, that would still be able, because of other muscles that you're squeezing in your arm, they're able to use technology to have the prosthetic hand or the prosthetic arm respond to those brain controls as well. So how does 3D printing fit into that? Great question. They're able to print prosthetics that are similar to the shape of the body, if not exact to what the person had. And let's say that so they're able to print them so that they are more personalized to that person's body, that they, more to their specifications as well. Maybe they want a pink hand. And it's cheaper to do so. They don't have to make a mold specifically for that person, and they don't have to try to fit into kind of big size categories. So imagine that you are either a parent of a small child who loses an arm or was born without an arm, or that child, and again, I want to make sure this is important. Some people never choose to use a prosthetic arm, which is absolutely fine. They're not saying anyone needs a prosthetic arm, but if you were to choose, if you wanted a prosthetic arm, when you start as a child, you're going to have to continuously get fitted with larger and larger prostheses. That's why a lot of times kids aren't even fitted with one, because they're so expensive and they're going to grow out of them. Well, what 3D printing offers you the ability to do is to print a prosthesis at any size for a much cheaper cost. And then to actually just ramp up the size of your 3D model, just to scale it up in size every year, maybe on the birthday of the child. So you're able to much cheaper, save all of the hardware, all of the electronic components, and just upgrade the shell. All right, question time. What do you think this is for? Oops. What do you think this is for? You can raise your hand or you can type it in. What do you think this is? No guesses? Brianna got it? I think she left a letter out. Any guesses on what this is? Alexis, Amelia, Grace, Kendall? Brianna, you are correct. It is a splint. It's a cast. It's actually a full cast, which is neat. This is a way, and I actually have many questions asking how they got the cast on. To be completely honest, I'm not sure quite how they got the cast on. I imagine it was made kind of in two pieces, and those pieces were glued or affixed together. But this cast is extremely strong, and it's fit exactly to fit on this person's arm, and it's so hard and fits exactly to this person's arm that would actually help the wound heal faster. Something else that is neat, it's waterproof, completely waterproof, so it wouldn't smell or itch the same way. And yeah, you can let air in, and that would help if the arm is injured in other ways, heal faster as well. So very cool. Housing. Okay, moving away from medical a little bit. This is those 3D printed, this is a video of those 3D printed houses I was referring to earlier in China. So this is the one on the left, and this is an example of one of the buildings that was printed. The roof is not printed, but all of the walls are. And this is a closer-up image of how they are doing this. Imagine taking a giant icing bag, but filling it with cement. And imagine that your arms are very, very big. Let's watch a video of that now.
Built in the normal fashion, but were actually printed by a 3D printer. This printing method was developed by private inventors.
The 10 standalone one-story houses look normal at first sight, but the walls are made up of layers of construction waste and cement instead of brick and mortar. However, technological limitations prevent.
Okay, so this is how this works. That's what's printing out the cement. Right now it's building a room, kind of a wall inside the house. And these are what it can move. So this whole arm here can move forward and backward along these rails. And then the print head itself can move left and right along this rail. And it prints out the cement here, layer by layer. And what's really neat, and what they said, and they'll say again, is that they can use recycled materials. So they can use a lot of construction waste as opposed to brand new cement. It's like recycling.
The buildings will serve as offices at a high-tech industrial park in Shanghai. We visited the company's workshop in Shanghai's neighboring city of Suzhou to find out precisely how the buildings were printed. The walls are primarily made out of material refined from construction waste and mixed with cement. The wall structure was scrupulously designed to ensure soundness and practicality. The printer used to make the walls was designed and made by inventor Ma Yi-le. His company and research center are all...
So that would be, I think, the unfinished wall, and these are some ways you can finish the walls to make them look nicer. What's really cool about this idea is that, yes, the printer itself is really big, and so transporting that would be difficult. But let's say that there was a natural disaster, like a tsunami. Well, tsunamis normally happen during a season where there are a lot of storms. So people will lose their homes. Many, many people, thousands of people will lose their homes. And then when emergency aid comes to help them, what they bring them is tents. And so these tents are not the safest place to be during more storms. So what people are trying to do is come up with the best ways to get 3D printed shelters, sturdy cement shelters, in places for emergency aid. What would be really cool is that, yes, it would be challenging to transport the 3D printer to the place where the emergency just happened. Very challenging. That's what people are working on. But they would not have to transport all of the building materials because they would be able to use local materials to build the houses. For example, rubble, stone, seashells, whatever within the local area to build sturdy, short-term housing.
Technological limitations prevented the building's roofs from being printed.
All right.
The buildings will serve as offices at a high-tech.
By popular demand from the last class, I hope you guys will enjoy this as well. Here's a short video on Buttercup the duck with his 3D printed foot. So that design that I showed you originally was the first prototype. It was just the 3D model. But then they actually wanted to make it something that the duck could wear. So they went through many prototypes. And this is it in CAD software. You can see it has a spring in there, bottom tread, and a hinged ankle with plastic support springs to help the duck walk. So this is the 3D printing unit. This plate gets very, very, very hot, and so does the material and inside the print head, or the printing unit, and the print head itself. And it's melting the plastic material, and this needs to stay very, very hot so that the plastic material does not fuse to the plate itself. So what's going to happen is that the print head is going to print the prosthesis layer by layer. As soon as it's done with one layer, this metal plate will drop down and allow it to print a second layer. And so there's a time lapse of it printing. You can notice very slowly this is dropping down. This is a high resolution print, which means that there's lots of detail going into it. All right, and it's ready to get tested out. There it is, all printed in orange. There he is holding it. And he's about to go put it on the duck.
Let's try your new foot. Let's try your new foot. Can you walk? Do it.
Buttercup!
Buttercup, how's that? Come here, boy.
This duck has not walked in a very long time, and he just gets to it.
Eddie, come on. How's that foot? Come on. Come on. Come on. Come get Teddy. Come get Teddy. Come get Teddy. Come here. Keep going. Where are you going, Buttercup? Come on.
He is so excited.
Come on. Come on. You going to see Minnie? You going to see Minnie? Are you doing good?
He stands on it really good.
Are you doing good? Are you doing good? Where you going?
What a happy duck. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Alright, so this is pretty interesting. 3D printed food. So this over to the left, this is a machine that actually 3D prints several different kinds of things. These are actually two separate machines, but it's the same process. First, it 3D prints dough, and on this example, they're showing it on a white plate, but it will actually 3D print it onto a hot plate. So the dough starts cooking, and then they add the sauce and the cheese, and the whole kind of oven then will get hot, which is neat, and it's a 3D pizza. Is this the most useful thing in the world? At this point, you know, it's not super hard to make a pizza. You could do that on your own. But the idea is that in the future, you know, there's a lot of potential for 3D printing food. Now, here's what's important to remember is that you're taking food and just changing its shape. We're not talking about making food from dirt or making food from trash. We're just 3D printing the shape. So here someone is making crackers into the shape of a horse, kind of like wafery crackers. Many people 3D print candy into these wonderful shapes, wonderful designs. And that's where we're going to leave it today. There's a video that we want to watch next. On Monday, we'll go into actually using the material. It is 7:56, so does anyone have a question? No? Any question about using a 3D printer or what kinds of things you can print? No questions? Man, we had a million questions about what we could print in the last class. It's really flexible with what your interests are, but one thing to keep in mind is that the material itself is not flexible. So a lot of people want to build, you know, trinkets are big, little trinkets that you can hold in your hand that are cool, like little shapes and stuff. If you want to build a cell phone case, that's always really big. They want to build a cool looking cell phone case. The issue with that comes to be you just have to build it exactly the right size to fit around your phone, because if you look at any normal cell phone case, there's some give to it. There's some amount of kind of like rubberiness or stretchiness to it, and that's not what you're going to get from the material here. That's more like Lego material. No, a ring is perfect. Have been, let's take a look at Thingiverse real fast. Some of my most successful prints with camps or with students have been rings. for a while, people were printing, like Batman rings that were flat, which were really cool. But what's neat is that you'd be able to get the ring shape that actually goes around your finger and just modify off of that. So build what you want the top of the ring to be. This is called Thingiverse. It's an open source market for designs that can be printed. Now, some of these things are too big. We probably can't build that guy. That guy also looks like he was pieced together because he's different colors. But we could definitely build this little braille thing. That's neat. We could definitely build something like this. This little rhino is perfect. Oh, except he's posable. I don't think ours would be posable. Yeah. So both of these rings. What you could do, Grace, is take a ring like this and modify it. Or take a shape like this back shape, and modify it so that it looks like something else over here. Or, I mean, another ring. It doesn't have to be this kind of bulky one. See other rings people have made. And you would be able to take that shape, any of these shapes that you see here. First of all, you'd be able to create one completely from scratch. But if you wanted, create like this Fennec Fox one and alter it in some way. Lots of different ring designs to get inspiration from. Alright everybody, well it's time, it's 9 p.m. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope you guys can make it this Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. For the optional MC Pi workshop, and I will work on getting the working recording up tonight. I never heard back from Mr. Dubik, but I'm sure he will let you know by posting on Edmodo if there is a lab tomorrow, Kendall. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you all very soon.